I'm selling my first copy of Sports Illustrated. Here's why. What's up, guys? This is Brad. So, as I mentioned, I've got this first copy of Sports Illustrated. This is from 1954, August 16th, 1954 to be exact. Got Hall of Famer Eddie Mathews on the cover with the Braves, and this is a CGC 9.4 copy. I've decided to part with it. And there are multiple reasons why I've decided to do that. To be truthful, I've been thinking about doing this for a long time, and it has nothing to do with the market, has nothing to do with my finances, has nothing to do with me wanting to downsize. My reasoning behind parting ways with this slab is because I wanted to upgrade, in my opinion, to something similar. So let me explain. First off, I got to tell you, this is the very first graded magazine that I ever owned, that I ever purchased. I got into this hobby over 2 years ago. Just kind of thought it was super interesting the more I learned about it. And that was when I made the decision, hey, I'm going to start my own YouTube channel about this topic. And if I'm going to do that, if I'm going to have a YouTube channel about sports magazines and graded sports magazines, I'm going to be a hypocrite if I don't at least own issue number 1, because this is iconic. I mean, this is absolutely iconic, this very first issue of Sports Illustrated. So I bought this exact slab a little over 2 years ago off of eBay, paid about $700 for it, if I recall correctly. And another cool little tidbit is I actually bought this from a friend of mine, Jim Kehoe, who does the CGC Sports Illustrated channel. So yeah, that's kind of neat too. That was my very first slab. He had it up for auction, and I snagged it. So had this one in my possession for over 2 years. Like I said, absolutely iconic issue. But the past 6 months or so, I've been contemplating getting rid of this. And, once again, here is the reason why. This issue, as many of you know, is the most frequently graded issue of all time by CGC. As of now, the pop reports show that there are well over 800 copies graded of this issue. In fact, I'm showing you right now the census for this specific issue. Issue number 1, 1954, Eddie Mathews. And if we scroll down here to the bottom, you can see there have been 866 newsstand copies of this issue graded. And you'll also notice that there are no subscription copies graded. So there's a couple things going on here. If you're only familiar with sports cards, that might actually look like not that crazy of a number to you, 866. But if you follow graded magazines closely, you know that is an extremely high number, especially of newsstands. Newsstands are usually pretty tough to find, especially going back to 1954. And like I said, this is the highest pop count for a single issue of any Sports Illustrated magazine that's been graded by CGC. When this issue was released by Time Inc., it was actually sent in an envelope, all of those first issues, and there were no issues sent out, no copies sent out with a mailing label on the cover. No subscription copies will ever be found of issue number 1. So that's why there's no subscription breakout here. Every copy that still exists of issue number 1 is going to be considered a newsstand because it never had a mailing label on the cover. So that's a big reason why there's 866. Now, what's the reason why you look at this? Look at these numbers up on the high end, 9.8. There have been almost 100 9.8 copies of this issue from 1954. There have been 163 9.6s, 125 9.4s, which is what mine is, 81 9.2s, 61 9.0s. The majority of these things are 9.0 or higher. And that's because also, as many people know, Sports Illustrated saved a bunch of these copies in a warehouse for many years, and decades later, they sold those kind of as collector's items. They sent them in a nice folder, nice binder, and people could get basically a mint copy of the very first issue of Sports Illustrated #1. So why does this matter to me? Why is that relevant in terms of me deciding to sell this copy right here? Well, one of my favorite things about the graded sports magazine hobby is how unique and how rare, so to speak, or how uncommon a lot of these issues are that I own, a lot of these newsstands. I mean, many of these newsstands that I own, there may be less than 30 copies graded in the whole world of a newsstand. Definitely less than 100 for the majority of them. And so, as awesome as this 9.4 copy is of the first issue, I got the feeling like it wasn't all that unique. Like I said, there's 125 of these 9.4s, and there are over 260 copies graded higher than this. I don't own a single other magazine. I probably don't own a single other graded magazine that has 260 copies graded higher than my copy. And I'm not a grade snob by any means, but it just it was starting to feel to me like it wasn't all that unique, and I wanted something more unique. So about 6 months ago, I saw an auction on eBay. It was a copy of this Sports Illustrated #1, but it was autographed by Eddie Mathews, and the light bulb lit in my head, and I realized that's what I want. I want an autographed copy of issue #1 with Eddie Mathews, because that to me is a little bit more unique. And the issue is so iconic. How cool would it be to have a signed copy by Eddie Mathews? Eddie Mathews, by the way, passed away in 2001, nearly 25 years ago. So, autographs are more valuable and more rare, obviously, once someone has passed away. And nearly 25 years ago, that's a lot of autograph signings over the past 25 years that Eddie Mathews was never a part of because he was already gone. So I decided I wanted to find myself a signed copy of this that I could buy, and that I would sell this 9.4 copy that I already owned to help fund the purchase, because the signed copies typically don't go very cheap. Now, I've seen multiple instances come up in the last 6 months. I even made a run at one or two of them. Never ended up with one. Never found the one that I thought was just right. I really wanted one that popped. I love silver Sharpie. I've seen some decent gold Sharpies. If you look at this cover and just the darkness of it, that's not a super easy cover to sign. Black and blue. I've seen multiple black and blue signatures on this one, and they don't look all that great because they kind of blend in. So, anyway, about a month ago, I saw a copy come up for a private sale. An individual was trying to make a private sale, and beautiful silver Sharpie auto. Reached out to him. We worked out a deal, and I am now the very excited and proud owner of this autographed copy of Sports Illustrated issue #1, Eddie Mathews, silver Sharpie. It's a CGC 6.0, but to me, that doesn't matter. Yeah, I'm downgrading from a 9.4 to a 6.0, but how many of the copies out there are signed by Eddie Mathews? Okay, I was one of 866 people who owned a graded copy of Sports Illustrated #1, but now I'm one of, probably less than 100 that have a signed copy, or at least a signed graded copy. There probably are more than 100 signed copies of this out there, but to me, this is much more unique, and this is really, really cool. I'm super into signed newsstands. That's why I've been really vocal about I can't wait till CGC rolls out their JSA service, or I can't wait until PSA hopefully gets into the game at some point, because I have got a nice stack of signed newsstands that I cannot wait to get slabbed, but I haven't slabbed a single one till there's a better option. So with this one in particular, 6.0, it's honestly, in my opinion, not in that bad of a shape for a 6.0. It has clearly never been pressed. There are multiple spots where you can see it's never been pressed. You can see the back is super clean. I think I can even whiten it up a little bit. And so my plan is I'm going to keep this guy in this slab for now because it's beautiful. Um, and I'm going to hang around a little bit until CGC rolls out their JSA service, or PSA hopefully joins the game. So this one's actually authenticated already by PSA. All right, this one's already got a PSA letter of authenticity. So I actually would prefer to hold out a little bit on this one, maybe a year. I think I'll hold out for at least a year and see if PSA is going to do anything. I've heard rumblings. I've heard rumblings that PSA is in the works of possibly grading magazines, and in turn, they already have the autograph authentication services. So, if I could send this in to PSA and it's already PSA certified, then that would be smooth. That would be awesome. If PSA doesn't come around and it doesn't look like it's going to happen, I will still send this into CGC. I'll use their JSA authentication, and I have zero concerns about this passing authentication. I think I can bump this up to at least a 7 based on pressing improvements. There are some spine issues, but I think a 7 is very realistic for this. And if I had a 7.0 signed copy with this silver Sharpie, beautiful, oh man, that would make me ecstatic. I'm already in love with this 6.0. Really happy to have it over the 9.4 non-signed copy that I had. Not to put down the 9.4. I mean, it's still an iconic collectible that I would encourage every sports magazine collector to get a copy of. But for me, I wanted something a little more unique, and that is why I decided to sell my 9.4. Now, you may be wondering, okay, what are some of the numbers? And I'll share with you. I will share. So I already told you I bought my 9.4 copy for around $700. That was over 2 years ago. So some people have the mindset of, oh, I've got to sell it for at least $700 or I'm losing money. I don't really think of it that way. That's the sunken cost fallacy. If you want to look that up and read about it, that money has been gone for over 2 years. This was a part of my personal collection. I never bought it with the intention of flipping. So I put my 9.4 out there on one of the Facebook groups, listed it for $650, which I thought was a pretty fair price given comps. Had a buyer, and so it sold for $650. I'm actually getting ready to ship it out today to that buyer. So sold it for $650. Technically, yeah, it's about $50, or once fees and everything came into play, maybe $100 less than what I bought it for 2 years ago, but that does not matter to me. That money was already long gone. So 650, negotiated a purchase of 1250, 1,250 for this one. So the way I look at it, you take the 1,250, subtract the 650 that I'm getting for my 9.4, and I got this guy in my hands for about $600, which I am thrilled about. So there actually have been a handful of sales of similar copies here in the past year, and this one's actually almost identical. This 6.0, which is the same grade as the one I just picked up. Now this one's a gold Sharpie instead of my silver. This one sold on eBay in January of this year, January of 2024, for over $1,300. I think it was like $1,320. And that was on eBay. So, once you add the eBay seller fees and taxes, I mean, that person definitely would have paid well over $1,400 for it. and I got mine for $12.50, just going through the private sale. So I feel pretty good about that. There also was this 9.0 that just sold in May on Heritage Auctions for $3,120 now, and that's a gold Sharpie signature as well. Obviously, 9.0, much higher grade than mine. It does have the qualified green label. That's just because that's how CGC up to this point has handled most autographs. Um, if you actually look at the picture, it will simply say Eddie Mathews written on the cover. Let's see where it is, if it'll let us zoom in there. Yeah. Eddie Mathews written on cover and marker, treating it almost as if it's just some random person scribbling on there rather than an actual cool signature. But they'll be changing that service here in the near future once they roll out their JSA stuff. So anyway, that's what I did. That is my decision. That is why I have decided to part ways with the first ever slab I've ever owned. It has served me well. I'm really excited to pass it along to another collector who doesn't yet have a copy of this. And really happy that it was able to help me reach my upgrade, my personal upgrade of this autographed copy, Eddie Mathews 6.0. Like I said, I'll hold on to this for a while. I'll keep it as is, and at some point in the next year or so, I'll crack this out. I will clean it. I will press it. I'll send it into either CGC or hopefully PSA, and see if I can get it up to a 7. And this one I plan on being a kind of a cornerstone of my collection for a very long time. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think. If you have not yet done so, please subscribe to this channel. I appreciate likes and comments. And until the next video, see you next time.